Hello, my name is Gerald Shea. I'm the author of Song Without Words. It's a book about partial deafness. I am partially deaf. When I was a child, 6 years old, I came down with scarlet fever. I had chickenpox too, and I lost much of my hearing. But I didn't realize it, and I compensated by translating into the English language the non-words or the wrong words that you hear when you don't hear consonants. When I went to Phillips Academy at Andover, I was still that period until the age of 34, where I really didn't know that I was partially deaf or considerably deaf. Sometimes I would have help from teachers, and when I really didn't understand what was going in class, I would then persuade the teacher to talk to me alone after each class was given, and got through that way and finally understood. It's much easier to talk to another person if it's one-on-one and you're very close than if that other person is at a distance. But I remember when I got to Yale, my first lecture in a large room at Yale, I noticed that when the teacher started talking, everybody picked up their pen and pencil and started writing, and I thought, what a wonderful school this is, but those words really escaped me. So I had to get through Yale and through law school really by taking notes, often of nonsense, particularly in law school, and then translating them at night, late into the early morning. And eventually that worked. But it wasn't a method that was going to work in everyday life. Eventually, at the age of 34, almost by accident, I discovered that I was very deaf. The nurse thought I already had hearing aids. And gradually, once I got them, I came back into a more complete participation in the hearing world with the use of hearing aids and other devices that enabled me to continue my practice as a lawyer. And I so continued with the hearing aids for another 20 years. It was a difficult time, but in the end, I think, a triumph of sorts. The book goes into great depth about how partially deaf people communicate. I use the term lyricals. It's my term. Lyricals is my word for the wrong words that we hear. For example, if you said, I thought of that, I might hear, I lost my hat. And then I would think about whether you had a hat on or not. I would remember that you didn't have a hat, and then figure out that you had said something else. In the meantime, the conversation continues, and gradually I figure out that you said, I thought of that, but then I may be a sentence or two behind, and using lyricals to catch up with the conversation as it went on. That's the way I practiced law in New York, in Paris, in Eastern Europe, in the Middle East for 30 years. I remember the first time I put on my hearing aids, I was alone. I put the hearing aids on out in the country. Everybody was in the house, and I had a gin and tonic in my hand, and I was having a nice Friday night drink. And suddenly I felt my hearing aids were turned off. I felt that I wasn't alone. And then I turned them on, and suddenly I heard the sounds of tens of thousands of crickets in the fields, just flowing into my ears. And it was a beautiful moment for me because I hadn't heard that sound since I was a child. And in a sense, like the Madeleine reminded Proust of his childhood, so these crickets reminded me of mine. It's important that those of us who are partially deaf and can speak ally ourselves with those who are profoundly deaf and either use sign language or struggle with hearing aids or cochlear implants, so that we can work together really to make our lives and their lives as complete as possible.